السلام عليكم أيها الإخوة، كيف حالكم؟ لعلكم بخير. اليوم سندرس عن 10 forms of the verb, the 10 forms of the verb. So today we'll be learning about the 7th to 10 form of the verbs. So هيا بنا إلى الدرس. Let's go to the lesson. So we have discussed till the 6 forms of the verb. Today we'll be moving towards the 7th. So the third group of derived form is made up of form 7, which is ينفعل. ينفعل is the 7th form of the verb, and the 8th form is يفتعل. يفتعل is the 8th form, and the 10th form is يستفعل. يستفعل. Form 9 is characterized by doubling the final root letter and has virtually died out in the modern Arabic. The only context in which you might see it is connected with a changing color, for example, yahmar, turn red, or blush, etc. So now we move towards the characteristics. You can see them over here. Form 7 is made by adding an in front of the root letters. For example, fa'ala becomes infa'ala. Form 8 is made by adding I in front of the first root letter and the ta after it. For example, fa'ala becomes ifta'ala. And form 10 is made by adding an ista in front of the root letters and putting a sukoon over the first root letter. Fa'ala becomes istafa'ala in the present tense. Now we look at the present tense. In the present tense, these 3 root forms keep the same basic features of the past tense but are vowelized differently. So they all have fatha as the first vowel and a kasra as the third. So form 7 yanfa'il, form 8 yafta'il, form 10 yastaf'il. Other characteristics: the kasra that begins the past tense of all 3 forms will disappear if the word before ends with a vowel. This is because the kasra is carried by hamzatul wasl. For example, in qalaba markabuhu, his boat turned over. His boat turned over. But ثم انقلب مركبه means then his boat turned over. Form 7 is almost never formed with the verbs whose first root letter is hamza, vaw, ya, noon, lam, or ra. The combination of the sounds would be natural in Arabic. The first root letter can affect the beginning of form 8 verbs. These can seem complicated but follow these general rules. When the first root letter ta, vaw, or hamza, this is replaced by doubling of ta at the beginning of the pattern. Ittakhaza yattakhizu, to adopt, from the root akhaza. Ittafaka yattafiku, to agree, from the root wafaqa. When the first root letter is dal, dhal, or ze, the ta at the beginning of the form 8 is replaced by a dal. In the case of dal and dhal, this is then combined with the first root letter to produce a double dal. Izdahama yazdahimu, which means to crowd, comes from the root zahama. Iddakhara yaddakhiru, means to save or store, comes from dhakhara. So when the first root letter is ta, dha, sa, or dod, the ta at the beginning of the form 8 is replaced by ta. In the case of ta and za, this is then usually combined with the first root letter to produce a double ta. Ittaraba yattaribu, which means to be disturbed, comes from the word daraba. Ittala yattaliu, which means to be informed about, comes from the verb tala'a. Now some common meaning patterns. Form 7 is relatively uncommon and usually has a passive meaning. Yaqlib is a basic verb, yaqlib, to overturn or turn, and its form 7 is yanqalib, to be overturned. Yaksar means to break. Yanqasir means to be broken. Form 8 is a common form and usually intransitive, but there is no consistent meaning pattern connected with it. These forms are often close to the basic root meaning. Yajma'u means to gather or put together. It becomes yajtami', means to assemble or meet together. Yaqrub means to be near. Yaqtarib means to approach or advance. Yanshur means to publish. Yantashir means to widespread. Form 10 often has the meaning of asking for something. For example, ya'dhan means to permit. Yasta'dhin means to ask for permission. Ya'lam means to know. Yasta'lim means to inquire, to ask for knowledge. So form 10 can also mean to consider or to find something. Yahsun means to be beautiful. Yastahsin means to admire, consider someone beautiful. Now next, here we have a table which represents form 7, 8 and 10. So we'll have a look at it. First we'll go through the form 7, then 8 and then form 10. Ana inqalabtu, anta inqalabta, anti inqalabti, huwa inqalaba, hiya inqalabat. Ana iqtarabtu, anta iqtarabta, anti iqtarabti, huwa iqtaraba, hiya iqtarabat. Ana ista'lamtu, anta ista'lamta, anti ista'lamti, huwa ista'lama, hiya ista'lamat. Nahnu inqalabna, antum inqalabtum, antunna inqalabtunna, hum inqalabu, hunna inqalabna. Nahnu iqtarabna, antum iqtarabtum, antunna iqtarabtunna, hum iqtarabu, hunna iqtarabna. Nahnu ista'lamna, antum ista'lamtum, antunna ista'lamtunna, hum ista'lamu, hunna ista'lumna. Now we'll go through the present forms of these verbs. So ana anqalib, anta tanqalib, anti tanqalibina, huwa yanqalib, hiya tanqalib. Ana aqtarib, anta taqtarib, anti taqtaribina, huwa yaqtarib, hiya taqtarib. أنا أستعلم أنت تستعلم أنت تستعلمين هو يستعلم هي تستعلم. نحن ننقلب أنتم تنقلبون أنتن تنقلبن هم ينقلبون هن ينقلبن. نحن نقترب أنتم تقتربون أنتن تقتربن هم يقتربون هن يقتربن. نحن نستعلم أنتم تستعلمون أنتن تستعلمن هم يستعلمون هن يستعلمن. So now we'll have some of these sentences. انقلبت السفينة في العاصفة. The ship capsized in the storm. شعرنا بالحرارة حين اقتربنا من الفرن. We felt the heat when we approached the oven. يستعلم السائح من الضليل عن مكان الأهرام. The tourist asked the guide about the location of the pyramid. انقسمت البيتزا إلى 4 أجزاء. The pizza was divided into 4 pieces. استخرج الجراح الرصاصة من كتفي. The surgeon removed the bullet from the shoulder. Now we'll do some irregular verbs in the form 7 and 10. So here are some of the notes about how irregular verbs behave in the form 7 to 10, followed by the summary table. So the double verbs in the forms 7, 8 and 10 follow the same rule as for the basic double verb. The verbs with Hamza are not common in the forms 7 to 10. When they do occur, they behave roughly as regular verbs, but see rules about their spelling in the previous videos. Note in particular that the form 8 verbs with Hamza as the first letter behave like assimilated verbs. See the previous videos. Weak verbs. Assimilated verbs are virtually non-existent in form 7 and regular in form 10. In form 8, the first letter drops out and is replaced by doubling of ta. Hollow verbs in form 7 to 10 behave similarly to basic hollow verbs. They have a long vowel in the end. There is no sukoon over the third root letter. Notice that this long vowel is usually an a sound, la. Only in the present tense of form 10, an E sound if the third root letter has sukoon over it. The long vowel will become short. For example, he resigned, istafal, istaqal. He resigned, istaqal. But I resigned, istaqaltu. Verbs with wa or ya as the third root letter defective behave irregularly in form 7, 8 and 10 and have the same ending as the yamshi masha basic group of verbs. So now we'll have a table of form 7, 8 and 10. For example, in the doubled verbs, past indamma, present yandammu, imtadda yamtaddu extend, istamarra yastamirru continue. So verbs with Hamza as the first root letter. No verbs in the common circulation for the form 7. Ittakhadha yattakhizu adopt in the form 8. Istajara yastajiru in the form 10 rents or rented. Second root letter. No verbs in common circulation. Ibtas yabtais was sad is sad, and no verbs in common circulation for the form 10. As third root letter past and present, in qara yanqari was read is read, ibtada yabtadi began or begins, istahza yastahzi mocks or mocked. Weak verbs. No verbs in common circulation. Ittafaqa yattafiqu agrees, istawqafa yastawqifu stops. Hollow. Inqad yanqad, ihtaj yahtaj, istikal yastaqil resigns or resigned. Defective. Inhana yanhani to bow bent, ishtara yashtari buy, istathna yastasni to exclude. So now you have the summary of the form 7 to 10. The form 7 verbs are characterized by the noon before the root letter yanfa'il. And the form 7 verbs are characterized by the ta after the first root letter yafta'il. This form can change somewhat depending on the first root letter. Form 10 verbs are characterized by the seen and ta or the sta sound before the root letter yastaf'il. In the past tense, form 7 and 8 start with infa'ala, ifta'ala, istafa'ala. In the present tense, form 7 to 10 are voweled with two fathas, a kasra, yanfa'il, yafta'il, yastaf'il. Form 7 often has a passive meaning. Form 8 is common form but no consistent meaning patterns associated with. Form 10 has two common patterns: to think or consider that something is beautiful or to ask for something. So this completes the 10 forms of the verb. Moving forward, we'll move towards how to use the verbs, the essentials of the verb for making the sentence. So I hope you liked today's lesson. Please subscribe to the channel, and if you have any questions, comment below. Ma'as salama.